You're watching Beyond Markets. Welcome, I'm Esther, Awoniyi. Many thanks for joining us. On today's show, we'll discuss how to nurture Africa's tech talent pool. You can join the conversation with the hashtag Beyond Markets. You can send your thoughts, your comments to my Twitter handle too. It's at Esther O. Awoniyi. Now, technology company Andela is looking to restructure its talent pool. Now, this comes after the company announced the departure of over 400 junior engineers across Nigeria, Uganda, and Kenya. Seni Sulyman, Vice President of Global Operations at Andela, joins me for today's discussions. Seni, thank you for joining me today. Quite interesting how, this news is coming up from Andela. You're having to let go of over 400 engineers and software developers. Help us understand why this is so.
Yeah, just to clarify the numbers themselves. So we are letting go of about 250 engineers in Nigeria and Uganda, and we've announced that up to 170 jobs in Kenya are at risk. And so we're going through a period of time in Kenya where we'll evaluate whether or not that is going to actually happen or not, and figure out what we can do for some of those engineers. But I think at a higher level, what's going on is that there are a number of different factors involved. But I think the simplest way to explain it is we've grown over the last 5 years, and we've listened to our customers to understand the demand and basically what they're looking for. Because as a business, we're basically serving customers. We've placed more engineers, junior engineers remote from Africa than probably anyone else in the world. But what we're seeing is the demand from our customers has shifted a little bit. And it's in terms of the mix of junior versus senior engineers that they want to deliver on their product roadmap. So we're basically adjusting our talent supply to meet the demand that our customers are telling us they want. I think that's basically the driver behind this decision.
But that may be difficult for some people to understand, because for a lot of people, the perception of Andela, what Andela stands for, representing young talent, young engineers, young software developers, and you have quite a lot of those youngsters.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, we're hearing that you're telling us that the market is shifting, demand dynamics is shifting to more experienced senior developers. So it just gets people thinking, how is that happening?
Yeah, there are a number of factors involved there as well. So let me just go back a little bit. When Andela started out, the idea was to place a lot of junior engineers across the world in different companies that are doing amazing things. As with any other startup, you start out by trying to change the world. You try to basically push against the natural direction or trajectory of the world. And Andela has done that very successfully. But once you get to scale, you then begin to come up to terms with the market dynamics. It's like any other business where you're starting your first unit, your 10th unit, your 100th unit. You can actually influence how that evolves because you have contacts, you have a network you can tap into, and you can really hit early movers. As you scale to 1,000 employees and more, the market dynamics begin to show. And I think what the market dynamics are saying is when people think about building engineering teams, the ratio of senior engineers they want versus junior engineers is different from the way we go to market.
Okay.
And so I think that's a huge factor in how we're looking at the market. Andela has grown significantly over the last few years. We're no longer a tiny startup, and so in a way we also have to become mature and understand that we're here to provide a service to customers who are paying for that service, and they have to receive value from that service. And we've proven that shifting our talent supply really works, and so we need to keep doing more of that.
So at what point, this shift in demand, at what point, did it become clear that this shift was happening? How long ago did you notice this?
I think we started seeing signs as far as 2 years ago. It wasn't as pronounced as what has happened in the last 2 quarters. And I'll explain some of the signs we saw. We're a 5-year-old company, so about 2 years ago, we're just about 3 years old, which means all the individuals that have gone through Andela's training program were just about 3 years into our company. And as they were progressing, we could see our customers telling us, hey, the folks that are becoming more senior, that are progressing, are doing better. We like them better, we want more of them. And that was the whole plan in the first place, was let's take a lot of entry-level engineers, advance them to more senior engineers, because that is actually what the entire world wants. Everyone in the world wants senior experienced people that can go and build things quicker. And so we sort of saw that sign coming. We were progressing a lot of folks ourselves, and ultimately, the rate at which you can produce, if you want to produce one senior engineer, that person has to go through as a junior engineer and then rise up the ranks. And so the demand keeps increasing, which means you have to keep increasing your intake over and over, and that's literally the strategy we had was if we can keep increasing our intake, then we can keep progressing people, and then we can build that sort of that senior engineer bench in the future. The speed at which the demand has grown versus the speed at which we can produce that talent over many years is not matched. And so we had to then begin to beef up our bench by bringing in experienced engineers.
So you knew as far back as 2 years ago that your strategy at some point would have to change. Did you know that it would all culminate to what it is today? The fact that your client requesting for more senior engineers.
Absolutely, I think so. We call our clients customer partners.
Okay.
They're customers ultimately, but we call them partners because we think they're in it with us for the long haul. But in any industry, what people are looking for is to deliver some product or service. And the way you do that is by hiring people that have experience to do that. But every industry also has an on-ramp for more junior employees because that is what builds the continuity of that company, right? If a lot of tech companies or accounting companies or finance companies don't hire more junior employees, they will never get the senior employees.
Okay.
And so that's something that we're very, very cognizant about. And so as far as maybe 2 years ago, we were looking to continue growing with our customers and our partners. And we're going to continue growing with our partners. But again, it's just the shift in the way the talent supply needs to go to markets. What I would say also is that the company's business model hasn't changed fundamentally. 100% of Andela's revenues come from one thing, which is us delivering engineering services to our partners, to our customers.
Yeah, but then there's now the factor of
the
level of experience and talent.
Precisely. And so what I think what has changed is the talent creation and talent supply model has changed for us. So we went from exclusively training 100% of our engineers to a combination of, hiring engineers who are experienced, leveling them up, and then combining that with the training. And I think now we're shifting more towards a world where we can hire engineers at different levels and then also begin to do more just-in-time training for the skills they need to really level up to what.
So, but what is maybe as far back as also 3 years ago, the ratio, of the young talent versus experience? What was it like?
It was more like 100%.
Wow.
So
and there was no way to at that point begin to work towards changing that ratio.
So that's exactly what happened. So
Okay.
we did. But if you think about it this way, Andela has close to 1,500 engineers today. If you want to shift that ratio, then the number of people you'd have to hire in would be probably triple what we're doing today at the more senior levels. And so we had to rebalance it, but then we started doing that probably 2 years ago, 2-3 years ago. I remember the first senior engineers that came in, I actually interviewed many of them myself, and we've sort of increased that over time.
Is there a large pool of these senior experienced engineers and software developers?
I'd say there's a large enough pool, yes, and we're learning more about that pool as well. Just a few years ago, I wouldn't say that there was as much clarity about the depth of the technical expertise in Africa overall. We and many other players in the ecosystem have really helped to, I think, make software engineering a prominent field again. I mean, people are now very proud and confident to be software engineers. They're coming out, and so I think there's a lot more data now about where the software engineers, what technologies are they using, what seniority level, are they, which part of the continent do they live in, and so we're actually gathering a lot of that data as well to inform what we're doing. But I think ultimately what we will likely be doing is expanding into geographies over time. So now we're in 6 countries in Africa. My expectation is we'll continue to increase that number.
No, so if you say that your strategy is not going to change, but for those, young would-be engineers and software developers who want to go through your bootcamp, the Andela bootcamp and training center, what should be going through their minds right now? Because do you think some of them will be discouraged and saying to themselves, but it looks like the market needs the senior experienced guys. Yeah. So what do I do with myself? What are my options?
I understand what you're saying. So maybe I'll clarify one thing about the point about the strategy versus business model. So our strategy and how we create talent has changed, but the business model of Andela, which is how we generate revenue, has not changed. Okay. Now, in terms of how the junior, more junior engineers or people that are aspiring software engineers should think about this space, what we're doing is we're moving away from something that isn't what people are willing to pay us for,
okay,
towards something that people are willing to pay us for, so that we can grow and continue to provide these opportunities for more talent. The world is going to need junior engineers for the foreseeable future, and many companies will continue to hire junior engineers for the foreseeable future. Andela as a business has a kind of customer profile that we're selling into.
Okay.
And for our customer profile, there's a mix of seniority levels that they want. And I think a lot of other companies have a similar thing. So we currently have over 300 junior engineers that will be working with us beyond the restructure across countries. And we'll continue to place junior engineers, but we're going to continue placing them more and more with teams that comprise of more senior engineers that are leading, who can actually guide, mentor, and support them through their growth as well.
So that they can be firmly on that path to seniority, to getting the much needed experience.
Yeah. And I think just one last point to add there is just connecting back to why are we doing all of this in the first place, right? There's a business and there's a mission. The business obviously is to grow and expand and be able to create massive impact, both for the companies that we work with who need to build technology products, and also the talent which is looking for a global platform to express themselves and advance their careers. The best way to showcase African talent is to get people who will get staffed on an engagement and deliver amazing work. And the people they're working with are thinking, wow, I have an amazing engineer and it's a woman in Uganda. And I never thought I'd actually be able to work with someone like that and get this much value. So when we have engineers on the bench who are not working, who have been on the bench for several months, up to a year, who we don't think we can place in the future, we're not actually changing the world that way. So what we're trying to do now is make sure we can get those people experiences that will allow them to actually become more senior engineers.
More senior and more experienced.
We're
just going to take a pause and take a break. We'll come back and pick up from, talk about what's going to happen to those, who will be let go and what their options are. Thank you for your time. So, guys, if you're just joining us, Seni Sulyman, Vice President of Global Operations at Andela, is with me, and we are discussing how to nurture Africa's tech talent pool. Seni, thank you for your time so far. Let's pick up from where we left off. For these guys who are being let go, what is Andela doing to give them a soft landing?
That's actually a very, very important thing for us. To start with, these are Andelans. They applied to Andela. They got into our... we have a pretty selective application process. By default, everyone who makes it into Andela is considered top talent. And so we think of them as our colleagues, as friends in many cases, and we want to make sure they're fine. So we are pulling, we're not pulling any stops in terms of supporting them. We're providing them with obviously the usual financial support.
Okay.
We're providing them with emotional support. We're making, we're going as far as counseling services and coaching and everything else they might need. We're working with local firms across different countries where people may be affected to figure out how to get them career support. So, all the way from CVs to how to improve their LinkedIn profile, to how to interview, all those things, and coaching. And then lastly, we've actually worked with a few partners in the ecosystem to provide more opportunities for them. For example, we're currently working with CC Hub here and Innovation Hub in Uganda, who have been amazing. They've helped us identify 60 companies that are interested in hiring our engineers. And
these young engineers?
Yeah, and they're going to be helping us with screening the companies that are interested. And we'll be actually passing more information to the public about this later today or tomorrow. But they'll be helping us to screen the companies, figure out what the opportunities are, schedule the interviews, and facilitate everything. And they've also given our engineers access to all their tech hubs for the next 3 months for free.
Okay.
I think one of the most amazing things I've seen in the last 24 hours is how the entire community has rallied around Andela here. I've gotten emails, actually across our team, people have gotten emails from different people that own hubs across the country, across the continent, saying, if you guys want to use this, please feel free to have your engineers come to us. We'll give you 2 months for free, plus internet covered. We have lots of other companies reaching out saying, I'm hiring, or my friend is hiring, or I know there's other people that are hiring. If you're interested, let me know. People have built spreadsheets to collect data of companies that are interested in hiring these engineers. And so it's been a massive effort. It's been amazing to just see the reactions.
Still on this shift in demand, is this a global thing that's happening, or is it happening in Africa? How widespread is it?
Yeah, so ultimately I think the demand and the market there has some similarities across the world, and also has some differences as always, right? I think what we're seeing is, especially in places like the US, I think to some extent in the UK as well, but I think more so in the US, there was a gap in the market where people were struggling to find talent. And so a lot of organizations have sprung up to fill that gap.
And there was no distinction between whether that talent had to be young, relatively inexperienced, or senior.
Yeah. Everyone's looking for talent all the time, right?
Okay.
Like as a global phenomenon, always money is always looking for talent.
Okay.
Ideas are always looking for talent, and people that want to either start businesses or grow them are always looking for talent. That's a thing that's like will never go away. I think what we're talking about here is the dynamics of the talent itself and the shift in supply versus demand. And so in the US specifically, there's been a massive increase in the supply of more junior engineers. This year alone, I believe 62,000 engineers are coming into the market in the US. That changes the fundamentals around whether companies are struggling to find junior engineers and whether they want to hire them 1,000 miles away, right? So if you have people that are around in the neighborhood, you're probably going to hire them first, especially because it's a little bit harder to manage remote junior engineers than it is to manage on-site junior engineers. Again, just like accountants.
Because there's more hand-holding.
There's a little bit, yeah. Oh. So it's like accounting or operations or finance. Your more senior team members are just going to be more independent and able to drive things themselves. But again, junior folks are, I was a junior business consultant in my early career, and I needed someone to help guide me through the process. And so everyone is this is really, really smart folks who are driven and capable, but it always helps to have someone more senior guiding.
Interesting. So let's quickly talk about gender. I know that you also, Andela, I suppose within your junior talent pool, you had a good number of females.
Yes.
How is that impacting the numbers right now?
Yes, I mean,
leaving and there's a good pool also of female experience.
We actually saw there was a tweet just yesterday with someone saying, "Hey, I'm specifically looking for female Andelans who want to become CTO of my company," something like that. And I think we've seen a lot of other women step in to say, I'm looking to support female engineers as well. Can I get the list of people? So for us, gender diversity is really, really important. Again, I think as with everything in life, there's always, I guess as with anything in building a business, there's always sort of like the purpose and the business itself. I think from a purpose and mission standpoint, it is very important for us to create diversity of gender diversity so that the future technology leaders are not just, they don't all look like one type. So in terms of nationality and race, that's the thing we care about fundamentally. We want the technology sector globally to have diversity of people from across the world, but we also care a lot about making sure that there are women and men and every other gender included. So we're being careful about that as well as we think about who we're exiting. But the big thing I think to note here is the exits are not performance driven. We're not exiting people because they didn't do well. This is a restructure because of the market dynamics and demand for our services from our customers.
So let me ask you this. I mean, how difficult was it for you? Going back to what the mission is, I know you're primarily, at the end of the day, a business providing a service to customers or your partners, as you say. But there's also the mission.
Yes.
You're also looking out for these young guys and ladies. How difficult has it been for you so far in the last 48 hours, just having to let these people go?
I think the last 48 hours have been very difficult. I think the last month or two have been very difficult. Again, these are people that, and I hate using the word people because these are our colleagues. These
Andelans,
are,
as you call them.
These are Andelans, right? They're amazing individuals who we believe will do extremely well in life, and we wanted them to be part of our company, and we hired them. So it's very painful to be in the process of asking them to go find new jobs. Even if we're helping them or not, doesn't matter. I think the point is that they're leaving. They wanted to work with us, right? They could have applied to those other companies, but they wanted to work with us. That said, the thing that's sort of keeping me and the rest of the team going, and the thing we're looking forward to is two things. One, we've really, and again, this is not just Andela, but I think the ecosystem as a whole, but I think we've played a big role here. We've really helped to reshape what people think about when they think technology talent. We've also really helped to reshape what people think about when they think African technology talent.
So sorry to butt in, would Andela be a go-to, a classic example of how to nurture? I mean, would you say that you've been able to put yourself on the map into when it comes to nurturing tech talent on the continent?
Absolutely. I mean, and I think it's important for us also in this moment as a company to not lose our sense of self, right? We should be very aware of the challenges that these recent 48 hours present to the company and to the ecosystem. But we should also be very clear on the things that we're proud of that we've done well, right? And I think we just need to make sure we don't also lose ourselves and our sense for what we're doing in the process. Just to give you a little bit of an idea of what the future looks like for us and what we're looking forward to. We're going to have, and we already have, a large base of engineers working across 200 companies in the world, 200 really interesting companies. On a daily basis, that is 200 companies times whatever number of individuals interact with our engineers who think, wow, these are amazing people from Africa building amazing tech. That's going to keep increasing, and we're going to do that more and more and more. One of the things that I believe fundamentally, and I think it's been proven by what has happened over the last few years, is when people begin to realize that Africa has amazing talent, they'll begin to invest in the continent. Africans will invest more, and also foreigners will invest more. And I think that is the growth story that I see for the technology space, is this mix of talent, capital, knowledge, and everything else coming to the ecosystem. I also think that long term, a lot of the Andela engineers and other members of our functional staff will go build companies or go join companies or go scale companies. So I've invested personally in one of the companies that was founded by 3 ex-Andelans already. And I know, our CEO, COO, a bunch of people have invested in other companies that have been started by Andelans as well.
But how much investment by Africans are we seeing also in the tech space, in this tech, the tech talent pool?
I think it's work in progress. People are going to invest in things they're familiar with. And we don't have a lot of stories of exits yet in Africa. What investors are looking for is putting their money somewhere and seeing it appreciate in value massively over time. And so the traditional industries are still, in a lot of cases in Africa, still where people want to put their money. But you begin to see markets like in Egypt, like South Africa. I think even Nigeria, Kenya, you begin to see local investors saying, wait, hold on, I'm seeing my friends invest in these companies. I'm seeing what the impact is. Maybe I should step in. Then they also, because the world is now becoming more connected, they're seeing what's happening in other parts of the world as well. And saying, if that can happen there, in India, in China, in Brazil, in Indonesia, how come it's not happening here? And how do I help to make that happen? So I think I'm seeing more of that. I think the ecosystem is seeing more of that. But I think there's a little bit of room for us to keep doing more.
Okay. Let's talk about, another side of the business, money, revenues. Before I let that slip away. Talk to us about, what we're hearing, what's out there in the press right now is that you're looking to make, you could see by the end of the year, revenues up to $50 million US dollars. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so it's basically a measure of revenue that is used very commonly by high growth startups. It's annual run rate revenue. And it's basically measuring, how you're doing and allowing you to see how you're doing. So yeah, I think we've crossed the mark of, $50 million ARR is what it's called. That's a milestone for most companies. We didn't celebrate that publicly because ultimately with any news cycle, you sort of celebrate for a second and then you go back to work.
But was that a projection for you? Did you have any number in mind in terms of what you were hoping to hit?
Yes, of course. Yeah, we have forecasts and we have plans, and I think.
So did this meet or exceed?
We're doing well. We're doing well.
Did it meet or did it exceed?
I'd say we're doing well.
You're doing well.
Yeah,
okay,
we're doing well.
Okay,
we're happy with where we are in terms of our revenue growth.
Okay, for guidance going forward, maybe going into 2020.
Yeah. We're still a private venture-backed company. Our investors all know sort of what our forecasts are.
Okay.
And I think what ultimately, if we're doing well, you hear from our investors, you'll see it in the way the company is actually performing as well. So if you just look at how a lot of venture-backed companies grow and their trajectory, you have these milestones in terms of your sort of annual run rate revenue milestones, and I think we're happy where we are 5 years into this business. We're going to continue to grow, and I think that growth is really fundamentally necessary to be able to get more access to opportunities for African talents to showcase how amazing we are.
So when good what Andela is doing in terms of nurturing talent, but when you look across the African continent, are you impressed or are you satisfied with the level of nurturing that's also going on in other areas, maybe by other companies, by other investors, etc., on the continent?
So I think satisfied would be an overstatement. I don't think we're there yet.
Okay.
I'm just being fully honest. I think with Andela, with a number of other companies that are doing, I can name a few companies. I don't know if what they're doing is public or not, so maybe I'll hold off on that. But ultimately, there are many players in the industry, because everyone realizes that this is, if we want to build our future in tech, we have to go and groom talent and nurture talent. I want to speak about the Andela learning community, which is something we're going to continue focusing on in the future. It's basically a program that we launched, and we partner with companies like Microsoft, Google, Facebook, and it's specifically dedicated to helping create new talent for local ecosystems. We've helped over 30,000 learners to get through that program. That's 30,000, 30,000, to get through that program. And many of them are working across different companies. And that's one of the ways in which we are going to help to contribute to talent creation. But there are many other players that are doing things that are, either similar or in their own flavor as well. And I think we need more of that because,
okay.
yeah.
Sorry, excuse me. Apart from the shift in demand, are there any other shifts, potential changes that you're observing in the market right now? And how are you preparing or planning to adjust to those changes?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a shift in demand, there's a shift in supply, of course, because different countries are beginning to wake up and realize that they need to step up their game as well. I give Rwanda as an example. Right, the government of Rwanda is trying to position Rwanda as a technology hub for Africa and the world, and so they're taking this very seriously. We're going to continue to run training programs in Rwanda, and we're looking forward to seeing how that will help to build the country's tech ecosystem as well. But ultimately, it's sort of similar to most other industries where there's a lot of dynamics going on, but I think tech is even more pronounced because things can change within 12 to 18 months in tech.
Absolutely. Seni, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for talking to us today. We appreciate you being on the show. And of course, all the best in, of course, continuing to nurture Africa's tech talent pool. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much.
I've been speaking to Seni Sulyman. He's the Vice President of Global Operations at Andela. And we've been talking about, of course, how to nurture Africa's tech talent pool. That's it on Beyond Markets. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Remember, you can watch the show at 5 p.m. West African time daily and have access to all previous episodes of the show on our website at cnbcafrica.com. You can also stay engaged with the hashtag Beyond Markets, and you can send your thoughts, your comments to my Twitter handle too. It's at Esther Awoniyi. For myself and the team, do have a great day.